Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you everyone for staying. We're going to start with some introductions. I'm keen to know who you are. I know who you are, but I'm keen to know who you are. Let's start with you, Denise. Who are you? What do you do for a living? Because it's fascinating. And yeah, who are you and what do you do for a living?
Yeah, hi. Oh, testing. Sorry.
Number one? I think maybe someone turned
Testing?
it on.
Okay.
There we go.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Jasper. Hi, everyone. My name is Denise. I'm also known as Supercatkei on the internet. I am a full-time live streamer based in Singapore, and I primarily live stream on Twitch. I do all sorts of content, from music. I play a lot of video games, and I'll probably talk a little bit more about the many other random things that I do as well. But it is very lovely to be here.
Two other questions just for you, Denise. First, what's your kind of community? What's the size of your community?
This
because it's big.
No, I think we're okay. So I think currently we have about 58,000 followers on Twitch, but I always like to look at the core community. We have about 4,000 people in the core community who interact with us on like a daily basis.
It really is a daily basis for you, isn't it? And how are streamers in your world encouraging DEI in games?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things I think that we're doing. I think something that's really fascinating, a lot of people are still not super aware or updated with what live streaming is about. And it's very different from all of the different traditional media platforms that exist. Live streaming is incredibly authentic. If I were to burp on stream, that's it. It's on the internet forever, and I can't take that away. As compared to maybe, for example, like a video that you can edit. And there's something about that authenticity that just allows you to have so much more deeper, very real and important conversations with people on a very casual basis. So someone can come in and make a very casual passing statement. And for example, I can be like, hey, that's not very nice. Or, you know, maybe you want to phrase it a little bit better. And there are a lot of other small things that I think we are trying to implement to the community to really have more diversity and inclusion. Small things that I think a lot of people are doing. Some things like, what are your pronouns? You know, something as simple as that lets people feel like, oh, you know, I can be completely myself and can be fully comfortable with sharing more about myself. So these are just some of the little things that we do.
And don't burp live, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, don't burp live. Just don't burp.
Feihong, please a little bit more about yourself, what you do, yeah.
Thank you, Jasper. So my name is Feihong Chen. You can call me Fei. I work for a company called Google. If you don't know that, we organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And my job at Google is called partnerships. So basically, we build long-term strategic partnerships with gaming companies.
That's fantastic. Sorry, I've just fallen in love with you. So you know, the female gamers are on the rise, Feihong, and I think Google has done quite a bit of research into this space. Can you share anything about some of those insights?
Yes. Oh, some of the insights are not necessarily done by Google, but they are all research that could be found on Google. So actually, I try to use a term called GEM that helped me to remember all the data. So first of all, the GEM starts with a G. G is the growth of the number. So basically now in the entire world, we have around 1.9 billion users, and we are going to grow to 2.5 billion users. And more than 48% of them are female players. So that signifies the importance of female players. And at the same time, a lot of these female players, they spend a lot of time like watching live streaming in esports. So that's where the E comes in. Like Denise is a fantastic example of live streamers and putting out more content on platforms like YouTube. So that's another E. And the M comes from mobile, because there are a lot of importance or major platforms like PC and console, but because the accessibility of a mobile game, like in mobile phones. A lot of females are able to play games. And right now, more than 80% of the female players are actually playing games on mobile. And then I think more than 70% of them spend more than 7 hours playing mobile games. So these are super important data that we keep in mind, that games are not only for boys, it's also for female players.
Fantastic. And Kaveri, finally with you, please, who are you? What do you do for MasterCard?
And I'll keep it brief because Jasper told me moments ago I talked too much. So I take care of consumer marketing and sponsorships for MasterCard. That's what I do. And what does that entail? That entails creating value propositions for our consumers, but equally importantly for our customers. So they're banks, they're merchants, they're fintech partners, there are other technology companies, not just fintech. And sponsorships is exciting, and that's where gaming comes in because it's across 10 passion points. The most recent addition being gaming, which is in 2018 when we sponsored the League of Legends. We were the first global partners. And also brought on board Shox, who I was mentioning earlier, who's our female esport brand ambassador. She's a shoutcaster. So yes, that's what I do.
Fantastic. And commerce with games is ever evolving. What are you interested or excited about in that space?
Yeah, everything actually. So gaming is staggering when it comes to commerce. As I mentioned, League of Legends happened in 2018, but in 2020, when the pandemic hit, we really dug into the data and we found that actually gaming is so much bigger than just esport. I was educating myself on this, I still am. It's a nearly $200 billion industry. And within that, 74% was actually in-game spend, which is so exciting, particularly for a payments company. And that's when we created something called Mastercard Gamer Exchange, which is a conversion engine that converts loyalty points into gaming currency across thousands of titles. Launched it, or rather spoke about it for the first time at Gaming Matters last year. And it's that, right? It's a journey we've been on ever since. Of course, now there is so much that's happening in the world of Web3 as far as gaming is concerned. It's people's, very often their first touch point, or the first access point into the metaverse. So all very, very exciting from that standpoint, but also from a D&I standpoint, Jasper, because as we were all talking, there are so many inequities that exist in the real world, and what we absolutely do not want is for them to be replicated in the digital world, in the virtual world, in the Web3 world. It's starting to happen. We need to redress that now, otherwise it's going to be too late.
So the big question on DEI, has there been any shift, whether it's positive or negative, in the gaming industry in the last 12, 24 months? Should we start with you, Feihong?
I would say definitely yes. The fact that we are here having a panel discussion about DI in gaming, that means something, right? So first of all, I think this is the mindset shift that we are talking about DI. We know the importance of DI. And secondly, based on my experience, because we work with a lot of gaming companies, we actually noticed that a lot of these gaming companies, they start to have various characters, like rather than these stereotype characters in the game design. I'm sure Denise later on can elaborate a little bit more on that. So seeing the characters in the game itself are one major changes. And the last one, I mean, there are more, but the last one I want to bring up here is about we see a lot of accessibilities, for example, in the game design, and to make the games more accessible for people who like to play games, but they are not in the majority group. So I think all in all, DIA is actually a very, very broad concept. I know that today we're going to focus on a female, but to answer your question, definitely there are a lot of changes, but still we have a long way to go.
And the changes are positive?
Positive.
Yeah, no, I think there are changes that are happening, but they're happening at a very slow pace. And again, there are pockets of goodness. I wouldn't say excellence just yet, but if you look at the data, 16% executives are, only 16% executives in gaming companies are women. We're talking about, female protagonists, not enough female protagonists in games. And the ones that are there are typically, the kind of fairy tales we grew up on, right? The damsels in distress that need to be rescued. Zooming out of just gaming, and when we talk about Web3 as well, there is much, much, much more to be done. So I think, Jasper, to answer your question, good things are happening, but they need to accelerate, and we need to go down to the grassroots level. And we need to start with whether it's girls for tech or girls for gaming, for that matter. Having more people like Denise be role modeling this. The confidence and the ability to go out there and to say, I can do this. This is not just a domain for the boys. So there's just a lot more. There's just way, way, way to go. But yeah, we're starting somewhere. I think the panel is a nice example of that.
And Denise, on your side of things, from the creator standpoint, are you seeing any changes?
Yeah, I think I've been really, really blessed. I think the entire journey that I've been on over the last 2 years has been a really wonderful one. I think in terms of how I grew up, I've grown up playing video games, and I never saw video games as something that only boys do, because my brother and I played video games together, and my aunt introduced my brother to video games. So as I was growing up, I never thought that there was this sort of, barrier, or that this is a boys thing, this is a girls thing. Similarly, coming into live streaming, maybe I'm a little bit naive, I'm just coming in being like, hey, I just want to have fun, I just want to do this. And we're just kind of smashing through all of the stereotypes in terms of who gets to be a live streamer, who gets to be a gamer, and we're just having a lot of fun with it. I think, like what Faye was mentioning, even in games itself, I just played Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, that just recently came out in the early access beta, and I was so excited to see that as I was scrolling through the characters, there are characters who's a woman wearing a hijab, one of them, and then there is another character, she's also a female, and she has vitiligo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So the kind of representation that you are seeing in video games right now is so much more than what we saw maybe 2-3 years ago. And I want to give, some props to that, because I appreciate it, especially if it comes from a good place, a place where we are including, really trying to provide more representation. But we can always do more, just like what they mentioned.
I mean, that opens it to a very interesting question of is this a trend? Are gaming companies embracing DEI? Are we seeing more DEI happening in games?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. At least based on my experiences, with the different brands and companies that I've worked with so far, they don't look at me and they're like, oh, we want to work with you because you're a girl. No, they don't say that to me at all, but they say, we want to work with you because you're a great live streamer. I don't know if I am, but they tell me that, and they're like, yeah, and we know we, thank you, and they thank you, but yeah, so I feel that we are really slowly moving past that. I think even more so, we're not just looking at male or female anymore, we're looking at anyone, non-binary as well. So I think we're making good steps in that direction.
Feihong, are you seeing any gaming companies embracing?
Definitely, as I said, right, my job in Google is actually cultivating all these partnerships. So there are actually 4 examples, if I may, and to bring up to this to your question. So one is we work with NetEase, it's a company based in Greater China, and they actually stated very committed and invested in DEI. Even when we are partnering with them, they put the DEI as one of the major pillars in terms of these long-term partnerships. So that's one. And for the second company I want to bring up here is called the Level Infinite. It's actually the international brand publishing branch of Tencent. So what they do is when they are establishing their international offices, they organize DEI workshop. They actually hire international DEI coach to give all these lectures and information to the employees all around the world. So that states how committed they are into this topic. And 2 more companies I also want to bring up here is Lilith and HoYoverse. HoYoverse is the international name of the Mihailo. So in their company, they design their games with the DI in their process, in their workflow. And they also have all the players in mind, so that when they are publishing and developing and launching their games on a global market, they not only go global, but they also go local. That means they respect the players in all the markets, they respect all the nuances, and they're trying to have everyone in mind. So these are some of the examples that I see from my job, and I'm sure there are more companies doing a lot of things like that. And also the reason why I bring that up is I want to use them as an example, as an inspiration. So not only big companies or small companies, every individual should be part of this journey, could do something in terms of like DEI and make gaming a more inclusive social space for everyone.
So, Kaveri, if I can ask, what are, we talk about gaming companies and what have you getting more involved in DEI. Have MasterCard started spearheading any initiatives?
Yeah, and again, there's, so the concrete plans for gaming in particular will come to life in 2023. I'm not at liberty to talk about them, but what I can share with you is something that we've launched recently. It's called the BELL block. BELL being B-E-L-L-E, so B for business growth, E for education, L for leadership, L for legal and regulatory, and E for entrepreneurship. And it's a community to welcome women and non-binary individuals into the world of crypto, blockchain, Web3, all the manifestations of blockchain rather, and gaming, of course, is one of them. So that's what we have done, because again, going back to your question about are companies doing enough, it's not just about what they do in product. It's also not enough to just have the workforce. It's also really about giving more women, and starting with girls for that matter, giving them access to education, helping them with new technologies, helping demystify the complexity of the industry, so on and so forth. So that's one thing we've done. The other is just we're also evaluating the possibility, beyond, of course, bringing on more ambassadors. But, those are things, again, that you can do them at scale, and surely they make the headlines. We want to make sure we go to the grassroots. So building support networks. I love what women in, not about Mastercard, but I love what a company called Women in Gaming are doing. I mean, it's incredible. Again, it's so comprehensive. They're bringing on ambassadors on board. Women can reach out when they're troubled by toxic culture, whether it's in the organization or it's in-game. And yeah, just encouraging girls to get into all things STEM. I think now should be STEM G, perhaps. So those are the initiatives we've undertaken. And again, zooming out, not just gaming, but other things, blockchain as well, and Web3 as well.
Feihong, Google, are they taking, I'm sure Google are seizing a lot of initiatives, but maybe you could talk about some of them.
Yes, actually there are a lot of initiatives. Well, not particularly in gaming, because I'm super proud of this company because DEI is actually integrated in our culture. So as a female, still, I would say in my midlife, I don't know how to describe that, like career. I would say also as an Asian who was born in a very, typical Chinese, humble, trying to be introvert family, I would say Google actually give me the environment to be safe, to be who I am. So there are so many different initiatives that within this company. For example, we have like women ads, always have activities to let us to speak up, to learn from each other, to support. And secondly, we have these, for example, like I'm Remarkable. This is something I really want to talk about is a movement that started in 2016. It's basically encourage women like myself or like everyone else to speak up, to talk about your achievements, not in a bragging manner, but to state the facts. Because a lot of times we're trying to feel so small of who we are. But a lot of times we forget how much we've gone through. So this is the movement that we need to make sure to recognize how remarkable we are, you are, and everyone here, you are. So to actually recognize, and there are so many things that we've done and so many things that we could be doing. So these are some of the examples that within my organization that we are doing, and I'm sure as an individual, we can all contribute to create this psychological safety environment and to build this rapport that we support each other, not only women to women, but also we need the male as an allyship to support each other to grow.
I'll be your ally. And Denise, have you been spearheading any initiatives yourself? I mean, you're not joking when you say you're in constant communication with your with your fans. I mean, I'm amazed that you haven't actually been chatting to them while you're here. But and seriously, no, I've seen the interact. She's amazing when she talks. I should say I was very lucky to interview Denise for one of our Gaming Academy sessions. And you were talking about, this has got nothing to do with this subject, but I was so impressed that after any stream, she gets her fans to send feedback on a Google form, right? About what she got right and what she could improve and stuff. I mean, it was an absolute masterclass. But anyway, back to the subject matter. Sorry, I'm being a boy and just changed the subject. Can't say that. Have you spearheaded any initiatives yourself in terms of more DEI and?
Yeah, definitely. And, thank you for bringing that back up. I feel like I need to give some context at this point, but I think what I have always wanted to try and do is to really build a community that knows that we value their opinions, we listen to them, and that we want to grow together with them. So as I was starting out as a streamer, one thing that I used to do is that if I wanted to try certain activities or content, I would put out a Google form asking them, what are you interested in, or what are some questions that you have. I think that's almost the easiest way, really, and it's just being really transparent with them and saying that, hey, I'm trying to gather feedback to make better content and a better community for you. And when they know that, they're like, oh, I'll definitely help out. I will definitely give my feedback. They type paragraphs. I don't even make them do it. They just type it. And it's just really wonderful to see. It's still something that I do till this very day, just because of how much I value really the community. And I think it really does play a part in DEI as well. One of the examples I shared previously with Jasper before is that apart from, empowering women and, having these really important conversations, sometimes they just come out from anywhere. There was a time where we were just talking on stream, and one of my viewers told me, like, hey, do you know anything about mental health? Because I don't really know much about it, but I want to learn more. And just by seeing how active the viewers were in talking about this conversation really inspired me to bring on a therapist onto my stream. And I said, hey, let's have a very casual conversation about the 101s of what mental health is, how to take care of yourself, and how to take care of the people around you. Because mental health is important, just like how women in gaming is important and all these other topics that we're having. So we've been able to do all sorts of content like that alongside the viewers. One of the fun things that we did was also International Women's Day, where I literally brought my inspiration, my mother, onto my stream, and I got her to play some video games with me to talk about her journey as a woman in her industry as well. And we've also been able to have all sorts of other conversations about some really important topics. I'm really blessed that I kind of have the ability and the platform to be able to encourage these sort of conversations. But if anyone is in that position to be able to start initiatives like this, I think we all have to work together, because I'm only shifting the needle that much by myself, but I think that there's so much that we can do when we do it all together.
Fabulous. Let's look into the future for kind of into the final section. What does the industry need to do to really get to where it should be? And that's, I guess, is 50-50 where it should be. But what does the industry need to do? Should we start with you, Feihong?
Well, first of all, I would say everyone need to have the mindset to understand what DEI is and incorporate that into the culture of your organization, your conversation, and your allyship. So that's one. And secondly, I would say to encourage all the organization to have this corporate structure change, to start hiring women in your organization. For example, you said branded 80% of women. I'm so proud of you, Jasper. And I really hope that we see more women in any organizations. And at least we see not only the majority are talking, we also want the minority and everyone to be heard, to be represented. And last one, particularly in gaming, I would like to see in the creation process, in the publishing process, in the marketing process, more diversity, more representation will be included. So just to recap, culture, I think corporate change, and then the creation change.
Very.
Wow, Feihong said that so beautifully, so I'm thinking, what do I say? But I just think don't do D&I for the sake of doing D&I. And again, it's not just down to Web3 and gaming companies, it's everybody. Effect the change, build it from the bottom up, and just be consistent. I mean, a world that's designed without keeping women in mind, and only by men and for men. I mean, you guys are wonderful, but not having that completeness is obviously going to lead to a broken world, is what I'd say. And yeah, I just think, Jasper, there's a sense of urgency with which this needs to be done. And I hope that's what everybody feels.
And Denise, the future, what needs to happen?
Isn't the future exciting? I think it's really exciting.
You are the future.
I think, like what I mentioned briefly just now as well, I think from a creator standpoint, we can only do so much on our own as creators. We have to lean and rely a lot on brands and companies and different organizations to really kind of help push the needle together. I am really so thankful and so blessed that some of the companies that we've worked with so far are for this, and they live and breathe by this as well. But I think the more we do it together, the more we get there, and we need each other to succeed. I think that's really what I believe in.
Fantastic. Well, it's been brilliant talking to all three of you about such an important subject. As ever, I've written lots of notes. We've talked about positive change is happening, but it's slow. So we need to speed up. It talks about role models, needing role models. The world needs more of you, but also business role models as well. And I think all three of you could a fine example. We talked about gaming companies starting to embrace it more. We talked about hijab-wearing gamers and more female gamers appearing in games. And if 50% of the gaming industry is female anyway, then it's a natural. It is, but we also mentioned a need for urgency here. It's like, I think you all said it. It's happening, but it's really slow. So I've learned a lot. Thank you. I also learned not to burp live on the stream, but that's more of a boy. I think boys should burp live on the stream. That's entirely different. But this has been great. Thank you so much for joining us, Denise, Feihong, Kaveri. Enjoy the rest of the day.